Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Wayne State University and our little Peregrine Falcon chat. My name is Michelle Serreyn, and I am the person who kind of keeps an eye on them and helps monitor them in cooperation with the Department of Natural Resources. So right now we've got two adults up there. They're not there right now, but Aura and Regal are our two adults, the female and the male. We know that by their bands. And this year we have 4 chicks because all 4 eggs hatched, which is slightly unusual. So everybody's doing well. I do a head count every day by looking at the live camera feed and going, okay, do we have all 4? I live close enough to walk by here and check every now and then. So they are being well monitored and we're keeping an eye on them. So they're doing well. The chicks right now are reaching their 4th week, which means in about 2 weeks, they'll start to get a little more antsy and they will start doing what we call fledging. So they'll have the wing feathers pretty much in, they'll still have some of the fluff, they'll look a little weird, but they're going to start testing out those wing muscles, getting them going, and they'll do something called branching. So they'll step out of the balcony, which has a little rim around it, and they'll start going sideways along the balcony, getting those wing muscles tested. And that's when they tend to kind of not make it back into the balcony sometimes. So we get a call from whoever notices them here. Our police force here at Wayne State is super at contacting us. And we have a whole Peregrine rescue team here in place. So we'll get them into a plastic tote and get them off to a rehabilitator. Now the rehabilitator is a person that is licensed by the Department of Natural Resources to handle raptors. So our Peregrine falcons are a raptor, a bird of prey. And what he'll do is make sure that the chick is in good shape, so he takes it to a vet that he works with, they'll test it out, and then for about 10 days to 2 weeks, they'll feed it and put it in a flight cage to get those wing muscles going, because these guys have such narrow wings that if they get down to ground level, especially the chicks who don't have strong wing muscles yet, they can't lift and get back up very easily. So he'll make sure that they're flight ready, and then he contacts us, we bring them back out here. Basically, we've been releasing from the parking structure at Kitty Corner across from Old Main so that the chick can see the nest site, the parents can see what's going on. Hopefully there's still chicks in the nest, because if there's not, sometimes the parents are like, whoa, wait a minute here. This is an invading falcon, and they'll chase them out. But last year we had great success with reintroducing our chick, Aurora. Parents took her back in, and she was sighted in December at Lake St. Clair Metro Park. Yay. So she's doing well. And how do we know that? Well, when the rehabilitator gets the birds, he bands them. First, they have their bird ID band. Each bird that is banded, whether it's a raptor or a songbird or any other bird, they get a metal band that has a unique identifying code on it for that individual. But because the peregrines are we're an endangered species, they're off the list now, they also get a band that's easy to see from ground level with a spotting scope. It's 2 colors, usually black and either blue, red, or green. And it'll have an alphanumeric character so that you can look it up online when the database is kept up to date and try and figure out who this is, where they came from, and about how old they are. So that's how we know about the 2 that we have here right now. Aura is from Toledo. She's about 9 years old. And Regal is from, he's from Warren, the Warren group, and he's about 3. So she's a real cougar.
He was born on a camera too, right?
Yep, he was born on a camera too. A little different from our previous pair. This pair is very tidy. The old pair, Isabella and Freedom, we'd come out here and we'd find bird bits down here in front of Old Main. People would be a little freaked out by that, but it was good for us because we could tell what they were eating, some of the frequency, what was migrating through at that time. This pair is super tidy and not as aggressive as our previous pair. So a big change over a couple years ago when these guys took over from Isabella and Freedom. All right, so we got a couple questions that came in that we'd like to address.
And feel free to ask questions in the chat as well.
Yep.
We'll have them answered.
So what got me into this project? I'm a bird nerd. I'm a Wayne State nerd. So I put those 2 things together, and I actually was working with someone who was the Southeast Michigan Peregrine coordinator for the Department of Natural Resources a number of years ago. Talked to her. She said, oh yeah, there's a pair of peregrines at Wayne State University. I'm like, really? Where? And she said, told us where it was. And so I've been keeping an eye on them ever since. But then since we installed the webcam up there, we can keep much better track of what's going on and monitor them on a regular basis. So it's just kind of a fun thing, and I'm just kind of Auntie Michelle for my friends the birds. I do call them my babies every now and then, and I get really possessive of them, but you know, we care about them, so we want to take care of them. Do they have any unofficial names? I don't have any for the adults, but I've been calling the babies Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Because those are the days they hatch. Now, which is which, I have no idea. But right now, they're just Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
That's a good idea.
They would not get an official name unless they happen to leave the nest, go to the rehabilitator, and get banded. Our falcon chicks do not get banded here because it's too hard to reach them in that balcony space, and we might spook them and they might fall out of the nest. We don't want to have that happen. Some of the other sites, like the Campbell Ewald site in Warren, they have more access to the chicks when there are chicks there, and so they can band them. But yeah, so yeah, we make up names for them sometimes. Do they go by band colors and numbers? If they do get banded, then the answer is yes. And again, you'd have that two-tone color with black, and then an alphanumeric code for each of the falcons. And that goes into a federal register, but there's a Midwest Falcon Peregrine database that's not been kept up much, but it gives the details about each of the falcons that they do have in the list. How long is the fledging phase and when does it start? Well, 6 weeks after the chicks hatch is when they have most of their adult feathers, and they're just getting rambunctious and starting to get going. So that's when fledging kind of starts, maybe a little earlier than that. And then the entire phase of getting their wing muscles developed, learning to fly, learning to hunt, that takes a couple months. So they will not be ready to be on their own until late summer, at which point they are teenagers, and mom and dad are like, yep, we're done with you. You are on your own, babe. Some of them stick around a little bit longer. They're not quite sure about leaving, and some of them take right off and do their own thing. Eventually, mom and dad will chase them out of the area because the adults stay here year-round, and they need whatever food sources are available here, which will be less in the winter. And so the babies have to go find their own way and do their own thing. Sometimes they do make it back into the area. Sometimes they go quite a distance. Our previous female, Isabella, came from Kentucky. So they travel quite far. The young typically will go south in the winter. It's a little more hospitable, a little easier for them to find food. But overall, only about a third of them survive into the adult phase the next year. And they're not sexually mature until they're 2 years old. So that first year, they'll just be roaming around, hormones raging, trying to get the feel of things and learn how to be a peregrine falcon. And then the next year, they'll start looking for a mate. Typically, they'll find a territory like this that has a good perch and is close to something like a migratory flyway where they can get prey during the season when the chicks are around and set up housekeeping. Sometimes that means they're going to tussle with a pair that's already there and knock somebody out of place. They do mate for life, the life of the individual partners. So that's called serial monogamy. So if one of the partners dies, then they'll take on a new partner. And that's what happened at Warren this year. They lost their female there in the fall of, I think it was 2020, and a new female moved in that fall and had eggs and chicks last winter, and then this year she disappeared. So don't know what's up with that, but they are susceptible to a few things. Right now we're dealing with avian influenza, which can be an issue for them. They eat birds, so they might pick it up from what they're ingesting. The other thing is sometimes when they're in a stoop, so they'll just drop onto another bird. They're up in the air, they see another bird, they'll fold their wings, they can drop at speeds up to and over 200 miles an hour. When you're in that condition, there's not much changing course. So if something is in the way, like a semi, you might just hit it. Weather can be a factor, lack of food can be a factor. So they are susceptible to some things, but fortunately, humans don't have a whole lot of impact on them other than accidentally.
You just had a piece of a bird drop behind you.
Yeah, it's a bit messy up there right now with the feathers. So
it is a little bit.
Typically what the adults will do is once they grab a bird in their talons, they'll bite the back of the neck to sever the spinal column.
Yep.
And that will paralyze the bird. then they'll fly it up there. Sometimes they'll strip off the wings and feathers before they feed it to the babies.
Okay.
So sometimes on the camera you'll notice something that looks like a little rotisserie chicken with a little bit of fluff left on it.
Yep.
Yeah, that means mom and dad have had a little bit of a bite beforehand and they're giving the kids the leftovers. But right now they're learning to kind of pick at it themselves, which is really great. Those look like maybe pigeon feathers. We've had a lot of flickers, woodcocks. So they like kind of good-sized, chunky, slow-moving birds. The male's only about 2 pounds, female's about 3 pounds. So they can't take on really big things. The gulls that fly around here like to tease the falcon sometimes. They also don't take on really small birds. So about woodpecker size, slightly bigger than that to woodcock size. Ducks they've been known to take, but not so much around here. Let's see. Where do they go in the winter? The adults stay, the juveniles disperse. And is this pair different from Freedom and Isabella? Yeah, they're a lot less aggressive, at least towards us, and they're a lot tidier. A lot tight. I cannot find where these guys are roosting and picking apart the bird parts. So our previous pair used to leave bits everywhere. Any more questions?
Yeah, so we did have one come in and they asked only 1/3 survived the first year. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that is an approximation, but that is fairly typical. And that's fairly typical of most birds. So, you know, we have 4 this year. Typically 1, maybe 2 of them will make it through the winter.
Okay.
It's really tough. You're basically taking a brand new individual and throwing them into outer Mongolia and saying, bye, have a good time, make it or not. And winter's very hard for them to find prey. So it's quite a challenge.
Right.
That's why we don't throw our teenagers out the door, hopefully.
I have a question.
Sure.
So with Aurora being spotted pretty close by at Lake St. Clair Metro Park, does that mean that she might stick around the area and be seen on other cameras or kind of intruding on existing nests?
She may.
Okay.
Again, she won't be sexually mature for
Right.
another year. So she's just kind of getting a place where she can at least find food and not be attacked by other peregrine falcons or other predators for that matter, because they do compete for food with other birds, namely Cooper's hawks. Cooper's hawks tend to get their prey in a lower part of the atmosphere. They tend to be more at close to ground level, but still there's some competition there for that food. And then winter's just difficult to get through. So if she's found an area where she feels safe and she finds enough food, she'll stick around. There is a pair in Mount Clemens up on the city county building. They have not had successful fledglings for quite a while. They've had babies, but the babies haven't fledged successfully for a number of years.
Oh.
The Blue Water Bridge has a pair, so that's not too far north. And once they get over into Canada, we kind of lose track of them.
Oh.
So there is actually a picture of Aura that was taken in Ontario a while back, so we knew she was in the area, but otherwise, we kind of lose track once they get out of our range here. And not everything has got cameras.
Mm-hmm. And so how do people report a bird that they've spotted? So it could be birders taking pictures, like that's how we got those awesome pictures
Yes.
of Aurora. Where do people log that? Who do you tell when you see a banded bird out there?
If you see a banded bird of any kind, so you pick up a dead bird, it has bands, doesn't matter the species, you find one on a camera, the Department of Natural Resources is the first point of contact, especially for the peregrines since they monitor them. All of the birds that are banded are listed on a federal registry through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So you can contact the DNR and they can contact the people they know. Sometimes there are folks at local universities that might have those contacts, but the Department of Natural Resources is a good first starting point. And we have our main office here in southeastern Michigan, right down on the riverfront at Atwater, which is where I know.
Awesome. And then continue to go, and I know you keep track of some of the remains that you see in front of the building. Can you tell us possibly some of the more unusual or surprising prey that you've seen them?
Yeah. This bird that we get through here, you might see them running around with the little black bands on their chest. They've been into blue jays lately, so watching the camera I can actually tell sometimes when it's got more feathers on it, a head and a tail. Our previous pair, though, since they would leave more bits, I was able to actually monitor that a little better. And there was a green heron once, which is a small size heron, not like a great blue, just small. A tern, which is a shorebird that looks kind of like on the roof of one of the built-up rooms back of Old Main here, and that may have been from a previous peregrine falcon years ago. So, yeah, just what we kind of can pick up around here, but these guys haven't been too good with those secrets.
Well, very good. That's it for the live questions, unless there's any that I missed. Mel, do you see any other come in?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Okay.
Is it more challenging to survive in the city than maybe like rural area?
That's a great question. For these guys, the answer is no. They need these high buildings to perch and roost on and have their nests. So peregrine falcons are typically cliff dwellers. Here in Michigan, a natural place for them to be would be pictured rocks and up in those areas. So they need that height in order to get the lift they need when they take off underneath their wings to be able to fly. Otherwise, from the ground, it's really difficult for them. They have really narrow wings, they don't have the lift. So these are actually great places for them to be. And it's evidenced here in the city because we have at least 6 nesting pairs within visual distance of the top of the parking structure. When the rehabber was here to release Aurora last year, he said, hey, wait a minute, we've got all these peregrines close by. There's a new peregrine that's hanging out at Jefferson and Rivard on the apartment complex there. We've typically had a pair at the Fisher building, the Sonic Temple, the AT&T building, the General Motors building. Great area for them, especially also since we have a migratory flyway. So the Detroit River is kind of a pathway for migratory birds to head from the south to the northern part of North America. And it's a great place to pick off birds because they come through here. And Wayne State's a great place to attract those birds because it's a resting spot. When birds migrate, they need shelter and food. Wayne State is a green space along the flyway. We're going to be improving that hopefully soon with more trees and more native plants. And so the birds come here, and this is like McDonald's for birds. You know, we hang out, we get a little snack, we rest, we continue on our way. And that puts them in the territory of the peregrines here on campus. So these guys have a great place right here.
It's kind of a rare example of urban area kind of being more friendly to urban area being more less
conducive.
intrusive. Yeah.
More conducive to their survival.
Yeah, normally because you think of urban areas as kind of intruding on animal life where they actually thrive.
Yeah, and so the Peregrine Rescue Program began when they would set up nest boxes for these folks on different buildings like the Campbell Ewald. We call them hacking boxes or hacking towers sometimes in the case of ospreys. And so they introduce peregrines into that area deliberately to see if they will thrive and take on that space. And then, of course, their offspring can spread into other spaces on their own then, or other peregrines come in from other areas. So the population has gotten so strong that they are now officially off the endangered species list.
That's awesome.
Yep.
A. Marie says, I'm currently participating in the Fledge Watch with the Harrisburg, PA Falcon, so this is great to hear from other falcon needs around. Thank you for doing this today.
Falcon nerds.
My pleasure. Hey, bird nerd, love my babies. So,
awesome.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And if you have any questions, you know where to send them.
Yep, you can share any of your questions. We can still get them to Michelle after this live chat ends. So feel free to ask any questions either in our DMs or in the comments on our other posts. No matter what, we'll get your questions answered. And keep watching the live cam at go.wayne.edu/falcons.
Yep, we'll have more updates as they start fledging and we get nervous at this end.
Absolutely. Yep, there will be updates, unfortunately.
So keep your eyes on the camera. If you see anything that looks like slightly suspicious, let us know. We got a team here ready to go.
Yep. Thanks so much. Certainly.